Hi, Caroline Kearney here at Powell Arts, and I'm standing with the wonderful Nancy L. Harty in front of two of her pieces, which will be in our Portrait show, which runs from January 19th through March 12th. Nancy, can you introduce us to your pieces?
Sure. This is Joyful Bird. It is a mixed media piece that I did. I actually won an award, my first art award for this piece. And it was one that I wasn't even going to put in. So
It's always fun when that happens.
Yes, yeah. So I've been very surprised by the fact. And it is, everything starts with monotype. And then if it needs something else on it. So I've been drawing these shapes for about a year, and I decided to see if I could create a bird out of the shapes. Awesome. And so it was just really a practice doodle to see if it, and so I entered it into a show and I won. For most whimsical, which is really what my work is.
I love that your work is whimsical. I think that it had yes, I would call it whimsical. Definitely. And colorful.
Yes, I love color, which is, you can see it here in the royal bird. So this is started with a monotype, and I've been working with the gelatin printing plate for about almost a decade now. And I place string on the plate, and I just let what I see, and I start to paint on the plate. And I saw this bird, I saw this face really, and then I love these big heads or big feathers or whatever the figure is. So I just started painting in what I saw. Sometimes the image is there and doesn't need any enhancement. For this one, I really wanted the red and the teal to pop, and I thought that the gold, since it was the royal bird, was fitting. And so, yeah, I love color. Color comes from my love of the Caribbean and island travels. So I have always loved bright colors from a very young age.
I think that one of the things that I can't help but observe is this almost looks like a Marie Antoinette hairdo. So yes. The royal bird makes sense.
But you're saying Marie Antoinette, and I sat there and thought, this is a groovy chick.
Yeah,
and with the earring and the hair,
face that they're like, oh, am I a royal bird? I believe I am.
No.
Yeah. Welcome.
Well, and this one came from, I did one called the Mermaid Queen, and it was the same thing. She looked like a mermaid, but then I put fish and different things in her hair, and I was at an event in Morristown on some type of autumn fair or something. And that was the hit. That one. And I thought, oh my goodness, that is the craziest piece. And there was doubt in my partner, my husband, that one would sell, but it did. And so it really made me go, you know what? That's, I think, where I want to go now.
We talk a lot about how some pieces are just joyful, and you don't know where it comes from, but there's just something about the way that it comes together that when you look at it, you're like, that is a joyful piece. And I feel that way about both of these. They also are kind of interesting because, I mean, they're both very interesting, but in this one, you've codified, it's almost all codified circles. And so in some ways, it's much more structured than this, which is very loose. So you have two different ways that you play with things. This is kind of instinctive, and this is more codified, but you described it as a doodle. Can you talk a little bit about how the idea of play and also structure works for you?
Well, I think the one for the Joyful Bird, that one was somebody telling me, all right, Nancy, you have all of these beautiful backgrounds, all of these monoprints. Now do something with them. So I usually have three piles. One that says this needs to have something either drawn on it or glued on, some type of collage work to make something so that it, puts it together. So that one was just hearing that voice in my head and that person saying, do something with it. And so there's always a funny saying that I've seen in mixed media artwork that says, when in doubt, stick bird on it. Which is what I did. This one is very intuitive for me. The string, I love working with it now. It's been almost a year, maybe a year and a half that I've been using that in my way. It's a way of me drawing because I don't like to draw.
Oh, that's funny.
So you doodle, or you let string suggest.
Speak to me. But no, I've never liked to draw, even as a child. No, I don't like graphite. I know it's probably bad to say, but I don't like my hands messy unless it's
You know
paint.
what? I agree with that. I don't like my hands messy. I do like to draw, but I hate smudging.
Yeah,
well,
that's the thing.
This one is
smudge.
is great with the charcoal and the pastels.
Yeah.
And she does not seem to smudge like I do, but
Right.
I feel like that's a skill that I do not have.
I don't have it either.
I get messy.
And I think it's because people have called me prolific. I can work very quickly.
You don't have the patience for the smudging.
Oh, I have no patience whatsoever now. No. So that's this one I really like better because I feel like it is something that maybe not a lot of people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I've kind of come up with, I believe, on my own. I haven't seen much of it anywhere at least in the gelatin printing plate world that I live in.
If it makes you feel like validated, I will tell you it's the first time we've had a string pattern that made a bird. Yes.
Yes.
That made anything.
But what I really appreciate is, that you are going and with the string, you put it down, and I can imagine this without actually seeing the face. I just got my hand in the film, but I can imagine it that way. And yet, on the other hand, you've made it so much into a portrait.
Yes.
And she's staring directly at me, and it's definitely a she for me.
Yes.
That you're using something very traditional and very off the grid. Mm-hmm. You're marrying the two of them to make something whimsical and happy and very directed to your audience.
Yes.
In both of these.
And also something that's really striking sorry.
I was just going to say, do you think about the audience that looks like this? Because you said your partner sat there and said, oh, no, nobody.
He's a numbers man, so we don't agree on a lot. But he does say to me something like, I just did one the other day, and I like the lines just the way that they are. So it's a black and white one. And he's like, well, I like it, but I really enjoy when you use a lot of color because that seems to be your thing. And I said, yeah, but I want people to see, like, sometimes what does it look like when I don't go in?
Oh, yeah.
So this one, I ended up painting on the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them, when I put the string down and I lift the string up and I see this figure in there, I will paint on the actual printing plate. And then I'll let that paint dry.
Mm-hmm.
I put another, one color over the entire printing plate and then do the pull. And so sometimes it's perfect just as is. Sometimes I have to kind of help it a little bit. So this one obviously did not have an earring, but I thought she needed an earring if she's royal. And this line, I wanted her to be happy. So I just elongated it a little bit more. Then it was probably right here. And I find that sometimes when I do eyes, they're like, so I'm trying to be more aware of, what kind of look they're giving. So yeah, she really made me laugh to see how she's like.
Well, not only that, the highlights of the white that appear, boop, 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 all different sizes. Shapes are all reminiscent of ovals, but all slightly different. it really goes and brings your eye all the way around. I go from eyes up and around to the earring, from the earring up and around to the eyes.
Well, and similarly in this piece, the way that you've used essentially both the inside of the ovals and the background, they have a similar, not the exact same color, but they're comparative.
Yeah.
You've used the blue green very effectively to give movement to this piece, and also the plumage of the back with the white. It really makes it visually interesting, and allows it to sit on top and come forward. So,
and it's properly placed with the feet.
Yeah, the feet. I love the feet are great too. One of the things that I think is particularly beautiful in your prints is you leave the edges bare so we can see the actual. These probably on film look much more graphic. That they are graphic, but much more. This is this and this is that in the picture. But when you're standing before them, these beautiful edges give you insight into what you've layered together.
Yes.
And so what's funny is you're drawn to the central composition. And then as you absorb it, this draws your eye into all of the little layers that you have in there, which I find really interesting because it adds a level of nuance and mystery and exploration. And
Yes.
I really like to explore compositions, like when I find little nuggets. And that's like a nice little nuanced nugget.
And that was my instructor that I had for 12 years. She told me, Nancy, whatever you do not cover up those edges because it shows the history and it has all those, she would say delicious bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And I really listened to her, and I'm finally at a place where I do know about taking the color and bing, bing, bing. Plus, I'm a graphic designer, so I do have that part of me. But I do like when I'm trying to work on something, say, Nancy, go back to what were you taught? It's small and large. It's, color, dark and light, all of those things.
The rules of the game.
Yeah, the rules of the game that I never thought of before when I was printing, all of these things. Now I go back and I go, okay, I didn't know what I was doing back then. But I'm a resilient person. I think that is a big part of me, and it's actually why the joy comes out in my artwork, because I am so resilient from a difficult life, and that I can. This is coming out of me intuitively.
Yeah. Because your resilience is another word for resilience is you can't be resilient without being adaptive.
Yes.
And what's interesting about being adaptive and resilient, you have to be creative.
Yes.
And so it makes sense that you are creative because you're resilient and adaptive.
Yeah.
And it helps you both survive in life, but also thrive as an artist.
Correct.
So
very good. That is it.
Nailed it. So we hope that you will come see Nancy L. Harty's beautiful pieces, joyful, whimsical pieces during our Portray It show from January 19th through March 12th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This was great.